has taken over. Let's go. It's Ferrall. Coast to coast. Steaks, chicks, stacks. You and I are going to make a lot of money. It's Ferrall, coast to coast.
Make sure you get the SportsGrid app on iOS or Android in the Play Store. It's free. You're going to love it. You can watch the network, listen to the network on the app. It's phenomenal. Follow your favorite hosts like Carver High and Ferrall, and then you get in-game odds. You get it all on the SportsGrid app. Hey, did you know we're streaming on X? Just go to SportsGrid-Live, and you can see us streaming 7 days per, every day, always, and people are digging it. Get the Ferrall Coast to Coast and Ferrall on the Bench podcasts on iTunes. Later on SportsGrid tonight, you've got it all with Game Time Decisions with the Kevin Walsh. And then you got my boy opposite pick, Scotty Wetzel, along with the Sportsbook consigliere, Dave Sharapan from the Steel City himself on In-Game Live. And then Sports Rage at 10 to midnight, all tonight on SportsGrid. As we get into this third hour, we continue to pound it. We're talking NBA rack.
Yeah, let's get to tonight quickly. T-Wolves beat Dallas by 115-114. Lively's going to be out at least 4 weeks with an ankle fracture. I got a little news flash for you. He's going to be out longer than 4 weeks. Okay, he's going to be out longer than 4 weeks with an ankle fracture.
2 months at least.
He'll be back in 4 weeks. Rockets beat the Cavs 109-108. Great win for the Rockets. Great stop at the end, too. Mitchell missed that bucket with time expiring.
Cover.
Got the
Did you
Rockets
see?
to
No,
win.
wait,
Pistons.
time out. I got 5 left.
Yes.
Did you see the end of it, Mike? Garland got fouled on a 3, missed 2 of the free throws. And
Yes.
then how about people, and I know people that had the Rockets on the money line for big money, and then we had them at +2. So everybody was cashing tickets last night on that game because Garland, who's like 80% plus from the line, barfed on 2 of the 3 free throws, and that's how they lost the game by 1.
Yeah, tough scene, but that's how the cookie crumbles sometimes. Pistons beat the Hawks 114-104, and the Grizz beat the Hornets 132-120.
Covered by a hook.
By a hook, and they were up 30 in that game, the Grizzlies. So the Hornets had a little bit of a comeback in the second half to almost get themselves
They
the
almost
cover
got
there.
it.
Almost got it. All right, let's go. Tonight, Portland. Remember, they won in Miami the other night. They're still in Florida. They're in Orlando tonight against the Magic. Magic minus 8.5, 211.5 the total.
I mean, honest to Christ, is Orlando ever going to look good in a game? Are they going to ever start winning again and playing ball? This has got to be the night that Banchero and the Magic get it done at the Kia. I'm on Orlando.
The Raptors are in Atlanta tonight against the Hawks. Hawks minus 5.5, 237.5. Big total in this one.
All right, so I said last night, they finally have a home game at State Farm in Atlanta for the first time in a month, and then they lose by 10 to the Pistons. You have got to be kidding me. They aren't going to win a game at home. If they don't win this game tonight and cover, sell the team. I mean, honestly, I have to take the Hawks again tonight. I mean, are they ever going to perform for their bunk-ass, broke-ass fans? Nobody goes to their games. You know why? Because nobody gives a rat's ass about them. They never have.
No, they never have. The Heat are in Milwaukee tonight. Of course, as we know, they won't have Jimmy Butler. Didn't make the plane. Bucks minus 6.5, 225.5 the total.
This smells like a slaughter to me. The Heat look terrible. They got the cancer within. He's not with the team, but he's already ruined the team. And they're not playing good basketball. How in God's name did they lose to the Blazers? They're going to get their ass pummeled tonight at the Fiserv in Brewtown by Giannis and Dame Time.
You got to be kidding. Is this guy out with the horn? Are they blowing the horn here? Are they bringing them inside because of the wind?
Oh, my God. How soft are they? How soft are they? That is the most pathetic thing you've ever said to me. It's perfect sunshine. It's beautiful outside. It's too windy for these prima donnas. They're too rich and spoiled to play in the wind. You have got to be kidding me. Don't get me started. This is the most ridiculous suspension of play I've ever seen in my life. It's perfect outside. There's not a cloud for 50 miles. What is happening here? You got to be kidding me, Carver High. You got to admit that's a real bad look for the PGA.
I don't like this at all. I saw the guy standing there with the horn in his hand, and I looked down at the same time, and I saw Mafia text me, yeah, they blew the horn because of the wind. And I just got the PGA comms announcement.
What?
2:05 Pacific due to high winds. They play suspended due to high winds during the second round.
What? Are you kidding me? How pathetic is that? Like, this was getting exciting. It made the golf torturous. It made it hard. It made it difficult. And you find out who the men are. You find out who the men are when the conditions are ripe. And instead, they're letting these sissies go into the clubhouse and drink beer. I mean, you have got to be kidding me. It is perfect sunshine, not a cloud for 100 miles, and they're canceling the round because of wind. I have now seen it all. This is the softest thing I've ever seen in my life. What is next in sports? It's too windy for the pro golfers to play in. Oh, girly man. Girly man.
I'm watching these guys, right? And this is kind of a weird situation for them because when there's usually they blow the horn because an absolute downpour or thunder and lightning, things like that, where they all get, you know how it goes, they all get in the carts and they bring them all back to the clubhouse. We don't need it. They're all standing at the tee boxes, basically just looking at each other.
Mike,
Nobody's leaving the course.
Honestly,
it's so bizarre.
Name one time in your life that you've ever seen play suspended for weather or wind in the British Open. Name one time.
And this guy's telling them to put their bags on the cart. He's basically telling Tagala and Keegan Bradley, they're asking him, what's the deal? They're holding their arms up.
What a bunch of
that's
honestly, it's Sissyville in the PGA. I'm going to tweet it out after the show. This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. Can you imagine it, Royal Troon? Listen, we're going to cancel play today because it's raining and windy. They play through typhoons in the Open.
They're getting, I follow a lot of golf people on Twitter, do all that stuff. They are getting smashed for this, like you said. The tournament was getting exciting because of the conditions.
Because of the wind.
People tune in because they want to see these guys play and stuff like this.
Suffer in the wind and play in it. See who can play. See who can cut through the wind. And instead, they pack it up with their wives and go back to the resort to have a nice steak dinner. This is the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. How pathetic and soft are these guys? You got to be kidding. And then what? I got to listen to announcers tell me they're making the right decision. You would think, literally, in my view, you would think that the fires were within 50 yards of burning them all to death. That the fires in Southern California was good. There are no fires at Torrey Pines right now. They have canceled the round because it's too windy for these sissies. And they're all getting in vans. You would think there were rocks blowing and hitting him in the face.
I can't believe this is happening right now.
This is the softest. I have never seen a worse decision in sports. Ever.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
they have a lot of hopes, and they thought last year they were turning the corner. Even early this year, they start turning the corner, and then you lose 13 games in a row.
Edmonton chipped away, got a late goal, won the game 4-3. I felt like they dominated the third period. They moved the puck on that power play. It was an exceptional hockey game. It went over the total.
Only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
So explain it to me, Mike. What are they going to do for the amateur's ball? Put it back there tomorrow? They're going to leave the 4 little flags where his ball was sitting for tomorrow? Like, I have never in my life, I just did a tweet on @Scott Ferrall where I just used all the language and everything else that's not tied to SportsGrid. I have my own like personal one where I'll use a little more, coarse language. This is the most unbelievably soft, pathetic, femmy decision I've ever seen in sports. There is nothing wrong with high winds when you're playing golf. If Carver High were playing in the Cape Cod Open right now, they would play through this as sure as I'm sitting here. I have never seen the Open over in Scotland or wherever ever once stop because of wind, ever. And I have seen wind over there 3 times stronger than this wind. And rain, sideways rain, pelting golfers in the face. And they're wearing gloves and ski caps and jackets and rain gear because they're so freezing cold and getting just douched with rain and wind. And they never stop the Open, ever, for anything, ever. And it's perfect sunshine. There's not a cloud for 100 miles. It's absolutely the PGA taking a PR whack today for this decision. Even the amateurs making fun of him. He's like, I grew up in this. Let's go. Let's play. I want to hit my ball. And they won't let him, and he's furious.
I obviously can't hear what's going on because we're doing the show right now. I'm interested to know what is the discussion here with him, because they found his ball. I don't know if they blew the horn, because when he teed off, that ball went way right. I mean, I don't know if maybe the horn blew while he was in his backswing teeing off. I don't know what he's asking about here, but there's a lot of discussion, and the ball's there. So interesting for the amateur Luke Clanton to see what happens to him going forward. All right, we got a lot to do because you got Adam soon. Let's go. Dallas and OKC tonight. OKC minus 12.5, 223.5 is the total there. Both played last night.
Yeah, I got a problem laying that big wood after they both played last night. And frankly, the Thunder, they didn't cover against the Jazz in that high-scoring affair that Shea just had, 54 in. So I don't think they cover the big number tonight against Dallas. I think they'll win. They won't cover.
Sacramento is in Denver tonight against the Nuggets. Nuggets minus 7.5, 241.5 the total.
I'm worried about the Kings tonight. I know they've won 12 or 13, whatever it is. They had to really work rally cap style last night, Mike, to win that game by 6 over the Dubs. They didn't cover. Now they got to fly to Denver and play the Joker. I kind of like Denver tonight in that spot minus the 7, even 7 and a hook.
The Bulls are in Golden State tonight against the Warriors. Now, I got Warriors minus 1.5 here, 227.5 the total. They've got Curry listed as game time, but that line kind of smells to me like Curry's not playing, Scotty, at minus 1.5 Warriors.
Well, I don't care. There's nothing wrong with him. It's funny to me. They treat him like he's 90 or something. Like, he went off last night hitting buckets. There's nothing wrong with him. So I'm on the Dubs at the Chase. They don't lose at home.
Celtics and the Lakers at the Crypto tonight. This is on TV, late night TV game. Boston minus 6.5, 220.5 the total.
I mean, I know it's a rivalry and everything, and it's like the greatest two teams in the history of the league, but the Celtics are on a different level to me than the Lakers. I think Boston's the play here for me tonight. I don't think that number's that hard to achieve.
And finally, the Wizards have lost 18 straight on the road. Looking to make it 19 at the Intuit against the Clippers tonight. How about 2 tutties and a hook for the Clippers? 14.5 and a 225.5 total.
I mean, I guess I got to lay it. I don't like laying that kind of number, but the Wizards are that bad. And the Clips, they covered last night. They lost, whatever, but they were in the game. Tonight, they'll take it out on the Wizards. I think they probably get over that hump in the 14.
There you go. There is your NBA for this evening. All right, I got some college rack. There was a lot of great finishes last night. I want to quickly just throw in the 2 that I have for you so we can actually hear them. First, number 13, Texas A&M, getting the win in Oxford against Ole Miss. Both teams in the final moments, Scotty. Here we go on ESPN2.
In and out. Chance for A&M. Down 2. 16 seconds left. Obaseki for 3 in the lead. First lead of the game for A&M. Padilla tied up in the backcourt. Shakes Taylor into the front court. Here's Brakefield with 6. Up the glass, no good. Rebound. And that's how we'll end. A&M takes its first lead on its last possession, and the Aggies are going to escape Oxford with the win.
What a win for A&M. That was huge.
And you know what else I loved about that? How often do you never see this in the NBA? You actually got to play out the entire final 20 seconds of a game. Someone made a bucket. Other team came down and tried. No timeouts. Nobody stopped anything. They just let the guys play, and it was just a great finish.
It was great.
I thought that was awesome, too. Next, overtime for San Diego State and Air Force. Now, this was a fat number that San Diego State wasn't going to cover, but they weren't going to leave without a win on CBS Sports Network.
Conversations are done. Just time to execute. San Diego State to inbound. Nobody defending the ball. Got to catch it on the run. The Gorville inbounds. McKinney, 2 seconds, all the way to the basket. Layup, around and down. Count it. No way. At the horn.
Are you serious?
And San Diego State survives.
Are you serious? What was even better was that I had Air Force in 14.
Florida had a last-second bucket that beat South Carolina 70-69. St. John's came back. They were down at the Garden, got to overtime, and still covered the number in the overtime.
Yes, sir. Yes,
overtime
sir.
where dogs go to die. Indiana lost by 9.
What a
at
fail. They were up
Northwestern last
6
night.
in the half.
And Cal and the Hogs got their first win in the SEC.
It's Championship Sunday. Can rookie sensation Jaden Daniels clip the Eagles' wings on his way to Super Bowl history? Then, two teams that know each other all too well face off in the AFC in the Bills and Chiefs. SportsGrid has you covered all day Sunday. Start at 8 a.m. with FST, followed by Pro Football Today, and stay with us for in-game live game day. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, what about tonight in College Rack, Mike? There's a lot of games. I got my fingers in a few of them.
There is a few games tonight in College Rack. Why don't we discuss what we have here on the docket? We will start with this Wichita State-Memphis game that we have in the American. Memphis minus 12.5 here this evening. We also have Maryland and Illinois in the Big Ten. We have that for you as well. Then we have the late night games. You know how much I love late nights on the left coast. UC Santa Barbara, the Gauchos, and UC San Diego tonight. San Fran and St. Mary's, really good game in the WCC. Washington State visiting Santa Clara late night in the WCC. We love the late night games.
Yeah, I still like Memphis at the FedEx in Memphis. I think they'll handle Wichita State and, frankly, cover the number. Same with Illinois. I like them in Champaign. They're too tough. I think they're way better than Maryland. I actually like the Dons getting a 10.5 piece. And UC San Diego, to me, is the buy over the Gauchos. They haven't been good at all. And I like Santa Clara at home over Washington State, believe it or not. I think they'll get it done.
You have several other games tonight. We have MAC games. We have CAA games. We have a few games, more WCC and Big West games as well. Is there anything else that you are attracted to?
Absolutely. I like Florida Gulf Coast over Farellermine. I'm laying the 11.5. I like Marist to beat Niagara. It's only 4. I think they'll get it done. I like Albany at home over Baltimore County. I like Charleston laying the 3 against Wilmington. I like Chattanooga at home over Sanford. I think they'll upset them, and getting 2 as a home dog. I think they'll get it done. And I'm just going through them here. Yeah. Some of the other ones that I like. How about this one? I like Louisiana Tech over the Hilltoppers at Louisiana Tech. And I like North Alabama as a pick'em at home over Lipscomb. I love Elon over Monmouth. I think Hofstra beats Delaware at home. I think they'll get it done. Queens laying the 5 against North Florida. I'm on Middle Tennessee. I like Middle Tennessee at Sam Houston laying 1.5. It never ends, these games. I mean, it's honestly, it never ends. There's so many of them. I like Northern Arizona getting 2.5 at Eastern Washington. I like Ark State at home laying 7 against App. I like Moorhead laying 4 at Eastern Illinois. Give me Davis -1 against Hawaii at Davis. I like Oregon State to rip Pepperdine at home in Corvallis. I already told you I'm on San Francisco. Give me Bakersfield over Fullerton. Lay the 4.5. And then I like Irvine. I'm going to lay the 7 on the road at Riverside. And that wraps it up.
Yeah, I like the Anteaters as well. Irvine tonight in that Riverside game. That's there for me. All right, we will do all of tonight's hockey games in the leftover portion of the program later. I will tell you the Devils beat the Bruins last night, but bad news for them. They lost Markstrom. He left the game after getting hit with a collision. They say he's gonna miss some time, Markstrom. So not a good scene there. They did put Jacques Lemaire in the Ring of Honor before the game. Columbus beat Toronto 5-1. Not a good scene for them. The Jets got the Pionk goal. They beat Colorado 3-2 in overtime. You liked Winnipeg last night, if I remember correctly.
I did.
On the road in Colorado. And the Kings beat the Panthers 2-1 in L.A. Good win for L.A. Penn's general manager Kyle Dubas denies rumors that the team is going to clean house and have a fire sale. He denies all said rumors. That is not going to happen, according to Kyle Dubas.
I can't figure them out, Mike. They win these games, like they beat the Kings, and then they lose games that it's inexplicable. The best thing they've done, in my opinion, lately is get rid of Jari. I thought he was awful. I really did. I don't know what to think of them. I don't think they're good. I know they can play badly, and then they'll win a game 5-1 against a really good team. I want to see if they can win tonight at the Pond against a crappy team. Like, handle your business. What is the problem? You can't tell that team from one day to the next. They're good.
It's Championship Sunday. Can rookie sensation Jaden Daniels clip the Eagles' wings on his way to Super Bowl history? Then, two teams that know each other all too well face off in the AFC in the Bills and Chiefs. SportsGrid has you covered all day Sunday. Start at 8 a.m. with FST, followed by Pro Football Today, and stay with us for in-game live game day. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Every Thursday, we hook up with our great NFL insider, the one and only Adam Caplan. You can follow him on X at Caplan NFL. Almost 30 years covering the National Football League, and we got him on C2C every week to break it all down. We start today with the NFL Championship key lineup changes, injury updates, and info. Let's start with the Commanders and Eagles at the Link. It should be awesome.
Yes, sir. And first of all, Scott, the weather, you saw the slop at the Link last week. Nothing like that for this game. As a matter of fact, the warmest day of the week on Sunday at Lincoln Financial Field. Game time temp around 3 Eastern, about 40 degrees. Shouldn't get lower than 37 as of now. No precip in the forecast. Wind should be low to moderate. So wind is not going to be a factor. Weather's not going to be a factor. That's a good thing. Now, first of all, this is the third time that they've played, right? First time, Jane Daniels had that rib injury. Second time, Daniels went off against the Eagles. He had 5 touchdown passes in Landover, Maryland at FedEx. So the Eagles are looking for a little bit of revenge. Now, what you got to understand, Scott, if you look at that game, right, this is when Jalen Hurts had the concussion after 12 plays. I give the Eagles credit. They fought. They actually had a lead most of the game with Kenny Pickett as quarterback, but their defense choked in the end, and they wound up losing that game. Now, when we look at Washington, they do have one key injury we have to mention. This is interesting to watch here. Deron Payne, their stud defensive tackle, he's got a dislocated thumb. He'll play with that. He's already played with it, but he also has a knee injury, so we got to watch that. But turning our attention to the Eagles, Scott, this surprised me because Dallas Goedert had an excellent game last week against the Rams. He's got an ankle injury. Now, he watched practice today. He didn't practice. And then Cam Jurgens, their starting center, he's got a back injury. Now, offensive lineman, Scott, and back injuries, you're always concerned. So what they did today is they moved Landon Dickerson, their left guard, over to center. He played center in college. So he's taking those center snaps today. And the tight end, man, if for some reason Dallas Goedert can't play, Grant Calcaterra, who's not a good blocker, but a pretty good athlete, good pass catcher, he would fill in. But, man, Dallas Goedert, Scott, is one of the better two-way tight ends of the National Football League. That would be a problem for me, Scott, if Goedert couldn't play. Really, when you look at this series, Scott, it's very fascinating. When you look at Washington, remember, in the first matchup, they held that big lead going into the fourth quarter. Then the Eagles went off. In fact, scored 20 straight points. Barkley had 2 touchdown runs. And then in the second game, Daniels absolutely, Scott, just went off. And that's they were, Scott, to be honest with you, that game was the only one where the Eagles defense struggled. And that's something to keep an eye on as we get closer to Sunday.
All right, what about, on the Commander side, what are their problems?
Well, other than Deron Payne, Scott, who's got that injury, they're going to be healthy enough. Now, the one thing you worry about, okay, I know Marshawn Lattimore is a very good corner, but some people around the league would argue is he what he once was. You and I have talked about the hamstring problems. He didn't play in that first matchup. Remember, that game was before the trade deadline, so it actually was after it. But the problem is, remember when they got Lattimore, he didn't play for several weeks with that hamstring. So he's healthy, he's over it. That's a good thing. The thing that teams have told me, if you go or you're trying to score against Washington, you throw the football. You're not going to make your money running. I know the Eagles will run the ball. We know that. It starts with them. But the bottom line is there will be opportunities if you could block up front. And we know the Eagles have the NFL's best offensive line. It's either Detroit or Philly, and most people think it's Philly. So I expect that now with the weather clearing up a little bit. And by the way, Jalen Hurts, we should add this. He's taken his reps. He did today. He had that left knee injury in the last game, and A.J. Brown said he feels better with that left knee injury. Remember, he got hurt against your Steelers in Week 15 when the Eagles were actually throwing the ball to run the clock out, and he jammed his knee in the turf, so that's one thing to look at. But I'll tell you this, the Commanders are way healthier right now than the Eagles are. Just stay tuned for that.
Yeah, that is a huge difference for me. It really is. And then I want you to break down how good they are at the Link, the Eagles.
Scott, this is the thing about getting home field. Now, I know the Eagles didn't have the number 1 seed, but they were the number 2 seed. And the Eagles are absolutely dominant. If you look at the last 3 seasons, including playoffs, they're 25-5. Second best home win record other than the Bills. Bills have 26. It's so hard to win in Link. I know you've been there. You and I have talked about this. You've been to Link. I've been there, obviously, since 2003 when it opened. It's just so hard to win there. And the fans get out of their mind. If they get a lead, it's really hard to come back there. Washington did not hold that lead. Remember, they didn't play great in the first matchup, but they did hold a pretty decisive lead going in the fourth quarter. Then the Eagles went off in that first game. But it's so hard to win there. The weather's going to be clean. It's not going to be a problem like last week against the Rams. Oh, by the way, we should mention this. A lot of the players were slipping. They complain about that. Now, the number went still over the total last week, which is surprising. But a number of players complain about the conditions because of the slipping. You're not going to have that problem on Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Again, Scott, the conditions are going to be fine, so I'm not worried about it at all.
I mean, it's going to be perfect for football, so there'll be no excuses. We'll see who gets it done. Let's talk about the big one. Let's face facts. The coup de grace, the night game, is the Bills and Chiefs at Arrowhead.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? The Bills, if you talk to anyone there, the Bills know in the regular season they've looked really, really good. And then in the postseason against the Chiefs, no matter where the game is, they should not be able to get the job done. 0-3 in the postseason. We know about the overtime game. Then the overtime rules changed because of that game. But the bottom line is when you look at the Chiefs, they're on a roll at home, Scott. They're also one of the best home teams in the National Football League. Of the two teams, they're a little bit healthier than the Bills. Now, the Bills, the only concern they have is with Taylor Rapp, one of their starting safeties, who's got 2 injuries. He's been hurt a lot this season. They're not deep at safety. That does worry me a little bit. But overall, look, the Chiefs are healthier. They've got a number of players back. Remember, Pacheco missed time on injured reserve. Hollywood Brown missed most of the season. He's back. Okay, he's a deep threat. Defensively, they had a number of players in their secondary hurt. They're all back, including Jalen Watson, who's a good cornerback. He returned last week. So they're healthy. There are no excuses, Scott, as you said, for the Eagles and Washington game, particularly with Washington because they're healthier. But the Chiefs are the healthiest they've been all season, Scott. But the one issue is at left tackle. Remember, you and I talked about this. Joe Tooney, their left guard, started left tackle again. Now, DJ Humphries is actually healthy now off that hamstring, and that's one thing to keep an eye on Sunday, what they do at left tackle.
So, I mean, the Bills do have the Rapp injury. They've had, we were talking about it with Carver High. They've got some guys banged up going into this game in Kansas City.
But they expect all their starters, Scott, to be available for this game. And you know what's interesting, Scott? One aside before we move on here is how both teams have morphed into not turning the ball over, winning with defense, and the run game, more the Bills than the Chiefs. But the Chiefs, the high-octane passing game is gone. They're more efficient. Kelsey went off last week, but they're not throwing the ball deep downfield at all, despite all the speed that they have. And the Bills have been more of an intermediate to short passing game. Josh Allen's been efficient. He's running the ball well as a dual threat quarterback. It's interesting, Scott, and we'll talk more about the over-under total in the next segment, but it's not quite what we thought from both teams. And it's hard to believe, but it's happening. The Bills have become more of a run offense. I didn't see it coming with James Cook, who's had a breakout season. They've done a great job of running the ball. I give Joe Brady credit. Joe Brady has kind of revived his career. There's no question about it. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens here in this game. And again, by the way, Scott, weather is going to be fine. It's going to be in the 20s. Wind's not going to be a factor. But as a matter of fact, weather will not be a factor in this game. I have no problem with it. But the point is, again, Scott, they're not throwing the ball over the yard like they used to. That's the thing about these teams, opposed to what they would do in the past in these games.
Do you think that the NFL is throwing flags for Mahomes?
No, no. Now that one thing,
except for those two giant horrible calls against the Texans and the flop, I'm surprised they didn't call one there either. They're
well,
pathetic.
The flop was a joke, but the call on Will Anderson, unfortunately, by the rule, is technically a foul. That's something, Scott, the competition committee will look at in March. No question about it. That was an absolute joke. I agree with you.
All the other quarterbacks in the divisional series were getting raped and got no flags. This guy Mahomes, you blowing kids at him, he gets a flag.
It's Championship Sunday. Can rookie sensation Jaden Daniels clip the Eagles' wings on his way to Super Bowl history? Then, two teams that know each other all too well face off in the AFC in the Bills and Chiefs. SportsGrid has you covered all day Sunday. Start at 8 a.m. with FST. followed by Pro Football Today. And stay with us for In-Game Live Game Day. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
So we're talking to Adam Caplan here, and later always anticipated the bust a cap in your ass segment. I want to ask you this question. Earlier we were talking about the Cowboys and Brian Schottenheimer. Is it true that he's going to hire Rex Ryan to be his defensive coordinator when he gets this Cowboy job? I can't even believe that Brian Schottenheimer is Jerry Jones' choice.
Yeah. Okay. Let's start with Schotty. Okay. Brian Schottenheimer, who was their offensive coordinator this season under Mike McCarthy. He's very analytically driven, I'm told, by people who've worked with him. He runs a West Coast offense. He's a really good coach, but being a head coach in this situation, he's got a second interview, Scott. And now Kellen Moore, as one source told me, if Kellen Moore could get to Monday without Schottenheimer being hired, he's got a better chance of Schottenheimer getting the job. But Jerry's kind of running this thing on his own with some advisors. Schottenheimer's a guy who's very well liked in their building. I know the fans are up in arms over this. It's legit. It's not fake. It's actually legitimate. Doesn't mean he's getting the job, but he's a legitimate candidate is my point. But Kellen Moore, who is very well liked in that building, remember now, Mike McCarthy wanted to run his own offense, so he ran Kellen Moore out of there, and now he's with the Eagles, of course, and coaching in the NFC Championship game. So, but it's legitimate. Son of obviously the late Marty Schottenheimer. So I know people are up in arms. I see it in social media, but it's legit. It's legit. Jerry likes Schottenheimer. We'll see what happens.
Is he going to hire Rex Ryan?
All right, so here's the story here. So as I told you when you asked about Rex Ryan being a legit candidate for the Jets head coaching job, I said absolutely no chance because I think it was more of a favor, to be honest with you. Here, it's a little different. Remember, Schotty worked for Rex many, many years ago. I think it's something to keep an eye on. I'm not saying he's getting the job, to be clear. I'm not dismissing this one because of their relationship, and they know each other very, very well. But to come out of coaching for so many years, it's very, very hard to do. And now I could tell you Rex Ryan runs a different defense than the one that Mike Zimmer was running, completely different. It would look very, very different. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We'll talk more about this, obviously, next week if Schotty gets the job. But this is interesting because it's went from Dion to other candidates to Kellen Moore. Everyone's saying he's a lock to get the job. He was never a lock to get the job. He was the early favorite. As I always tell people, you got to be careful with saying someone's a favorite. It could change in an instant.
Who's going to get the Jags and Saints jobs?
Yeah, Mike McCarthy is the name to watch for the Saints. He worked there many, many years ago. I know he's very well liked by Saints people. And the Jaguars, this one is fascinating. Liam Cohen was the favorite to get the job. The Bucs, I was told on Monday, they talked to the agent, said, hey, what do we what can we do to keep him? They met his price. He stayed. I give Cohen credit. It's hard to turn down a job. In fact, the Jags job was my second or third rated job. Bears was number one. That got filled by Ben Johnson. Keep an eye on Robert Saleh, who worked there many, many years ago, the former Jets head coach. Right now, he's got a real chance to get there. A couple other names, but the shocking story, Scott. How about Trent Baalke no longer being the Jaguars general manager? He was in on the interviews. They didn't get Liam Cohen. Ben Johnson did not give them a second interview. That didn't bode well for Trent Baalke. But that situation is very, very odd that they announced that they mutually agreed to part ways. Listen, it's rarely mutual. That was stunning at the timing of it when the Jaguars made that announcement. That was a very odd one by Shad Khan, the owner of the Jaguars. So keep an eye on Robert Saleh. He's very well liked, I'm told, in their building.
What about the Jets GM gig? They got their coach, but what about the GM?
Yeah, this is surprising that Lance Newmark, the assistant general manager of the Commanders, didn't get this job because he worked with Aaron Glenn in Detroit. Aaron Glenn, the new head coach of the Jets. It's a little surprising now. The Jets are having second round of interviews. They have a couple more lined up. But Newmark was the early favorite. He hasn't gotten it yet, and he's a guy that was with the Lions over 2 decades, and he was very helpful in the turnaround with GM Brad Holmes. But that job is still open right now, Scott.
All right, it's time for the always exciting Bust a Cap in Yo Ass, everyone's favorite segment on SportsGrid and on Coast to Coast. Of course, Adam is pushing a 6-3-1 number right now with his spread picks. Too bad Ferrall's 7-3. So we go into the championship weekend as a head-to-head. Here we go. We'll start with the Commanders and Eagles at the Link in Philadelphia.
All right, we talked about the weather will not be a factor. I am concerned about the Eagles' injuries. Now, again, when we talk about it, it's as of today's number. Now, you tell me. I think it's still 6. I think it's still
6.
Eagles -6. I like the Commanders to cover that number of 6. I didn't say they're going to win, but the way that they're playing, I could tell you they're not. They don't believe they're playing with house money. They're playing with a ton of confidence. That was a huge win, a dominant win. I get the Lions are beat up. I get it. But I like the Commanders. I believe they're going to cover this number. They're fearless. They fear nobody. And they're going to give the Eagles a run for their money. And these Washington-Philly games, even when Washington wasn't good, typically they give the Eagles a tough game. And look, the Commanders and Jaden Daniels was not healthy that first matchup. And remember, Scott, as I said in the first segment, they had a nice lead going in the fourth quarter, then they blew it. So the bottom line is I like Washington to cover that 6.
I'm on the Commanders not only to cover the 6, I'm on them to win the game outright and go to the Super Bowl. And I don't think anything can stop this kid right now. And I flat out think he's better than Jalen Hurts. I don't care what anybody says. And I think they're going to give him problems all day. Let's talk about Bills and Chiefs now. And the number is Kansas City -1.5 at Arrowhead over Buffalo.
Yeah, Bills have not done it in the playoffs. I think this is another nail biter. I think it's tight. In fact, with the weather going to be okay, the Chiefs have the better defense. It's much better secondary. That's the difference in this game. I like the Chiefs to win by 3 points and cover that number, probably somewhere around 27-24, something like that.
So do you think you're going to be upset when the Commanders play the Bills in the Super Bowl after I take Buffalo to win again like I did last week against the Ravens?
No. I want our boy Carver to finally be happy, okay? I will be secretly rooting for the Bills. I got lucky last week, Mike. I had the Bills. I got lucky that they got outplayed.
Yeah,
now,
I didn't get lucky. I had the Bills, and they won outright. That was all she wrote. Nice job by Mark Andrews. No mercy, sweep the leg. And they're going to win again. It's going to be Buffalo and Washington. We're finally going to get something else to be able to enjoy in the Super Bowl in the Kansas City Chiefs.
It's Championship Sunday. Can rookie sensation Jaden Daniels clip the Eagles' wings on his way to Super Bowl history? Then, 2 teams that know each other all too well face off in the AFC in the Bills and Chiefs. SportsGrid has you covered all day Sunday. Start at 8 a.m. with FST, followed by Pro Football Today, and stay with us for in-game live game day. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
So everybody loves leftovers. Let's dig in.
Let's go. We got a lot of hockey games to get to. The Senators are in Boston tonight against the Bruins. Sens, how about this? You're not going to believe this line. Senators road favorites in Boston, minus $1.60. Bruins plus 130 with a 5.5.
I'm not having it. Give me the Bruins at the Garden with that kind of payout.
I'm not having it either. The Canadians are in Detroit against the Red Wings. Red Wings, I got now up to minus 130, plus $1.10 for the Habs, and a 6.5 total.
You know, Detroit's been playing really good hockey lately. Their winning streak ended, but I think everyone's on the Canadians. We hit them the other night. I'm going to go Detroit here that they get a dub.
Both playing pretty well. The Flyers are at the Garden against the Rangers. Rangers now minus $1.50, 152 there, plus 126 for the Flyers, and a 5.5.
I love the Rangers. They're playing well all of a sudden. I told you this has been going on for a couple of weeks, and they are on a tear now for the rest of the season. They'll get into the playoffs, and they will cause damage.
Columbus is in Carolina against the Hurricanes. Heavy lumber here, minus 360 for Carolina. You got to be kidding me.
Well, they won last night in Toronto. They're not winning tonight, so I'm going to go Carolina puck line, lay it at minus 140, the goal and a half.
Very tough back-to-back for Columbus. The Knights and the Blues get together again. Remember, they played in Vegas the other day. Now they're in St. Louis tonight. Knights minus $1.55 on the road. St. Louis plus 130.
I'll take the chance with Vegas here to get it done in the Arch City.
Utah up to the Minnesota Wild in St. Paul. Wild right now, minus $1.55, plus 130 for Utah, 5.5.
How about this? I lay a goal and a half. I get $1.62. I'll take that stab at the XL tonight in St. Paul with the Wild.
Sabres still out in the Pacific Northwest. They're in Calgary for Alberta tonight. Flames minus 135. Sabres plus $1.15 and a 5.5.
Yeah, I don't think that price is that bad for the Flames tonight at home. I'll take them.
Of course, lots of bad blood between the Canucks and the Oilers after last weekend. They play again tonight in Edmonton. Oilers minus 175, plus $1.50 for the Canucks and a 5.5.
I think the Oilers will clock them. I'll lay the goal and a half at plus 143 and try to make some money.
Penguins won in L.A. the other night. Now down the freeway to the Duck Pond. They are favorites on the road here. Penguins minus $1.65, plus 140 for the Ducks and a 6.5.
It'd be just like them to barf all over their bib in this one. Give me the Ducks at $1.26. I want the Penguins, but they'll lose.
Caps are road favorites at the Climate Pledge in Seattle against the Kraken, -146, +122 for Seattle, 5.5.
I can get the Caps at -140. I'll do it. They're way better than Seattle.
And finally, Preds and the Sharks in San Jose. They played the Wild 7-5 game in Nashville the other day. Now they go to the Shark Tank, -245 for Nashville, 5.5 the total.
I'll lay it on the puck line again here and get a $1.10 if it happens. Give me the Preds.
There you go. There's your hockey tonight. Here's the rest. College football
Everybody
playoff title
loves
game
hockey.
was the most watched game of the season, but viewership still down from last year. Maybe because the title game was 6 weeks after the season ended. Always, it's very tough how far they spread out that title game. Nick Saban says leaving LSU for the NFL, his biggest regret as a coach. Probably most Dolphin fans' biggest regret.
That's because he stuck in the NFL.
No good. Rory McIlroy commits to return to the RBC Canadian Open in June. He's won it twice. Season 3 of Full Swing on Netflix. Rory will be part of it. Scotty Scheffler, Bryson DeChambeau, many others. February 25th is when that will be on Netflix. We love that show.
They'll debut with the first show will be about not having the balls to play in the wind in San Diego.
Bryson being on it is very cool. I'll be into it. Cubs signed John Birdie. Forget that. How about this spew news? The Braves just signed Jurickson Profar from San Diego. We love Profar.
Whoa.
He goes to Atlanta. Just signed there. And Madison Keys upset Swiatek in a tiebreak to reach the finals of the Aussie Open.
And the Ferrall finish. Nobody ever says anything bad about Mariano Rivera. All of a sudden, Rivera and his wife are accused of allegedly covering up a child sex abuse scandal that took place at their home and at their church's summer camps, according to a lawsuit. They are denying all of it, but the stories are grotesque and heinous. Not a good scene for Mariano Rivera. GTD is next with the Kevin Walsh. Get my app, search Ferrall. It's badass. We'll see you tomorrow at 3. I'm coast to coast.
Can rookie sensation Jaden Daniels clip the Eagles' wings on his way to Super Bowl history? Then, two teams that know each other all too well face off in the AFC in the Bills and Chiefs. SportsGrid has you covered all day Sunday. Start at 8 a.m. with FST, followed by Pro Football Today, and stay with us for in-game live game day. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.